Hello and welcome to another game preview. My name's Haas, and this time we are looking at Scrolls. Scrolls is being developed by the people at Mojang, the ones behind that big blocky game we all know as Minecraft. Scrolls, currently Mojang's second in-house developed game, is a trading card game and is currently in an open beta, though this requires you to buy your way in at the moment. In it, you'll collect a variety of different cards, or scrolls as they are so appropriately named, and fight your opponent on a hex-based battleground with a huge focus on movement. And that focus on movement is what sets Scrolls apart from your standard TCG. As of right now, there are three types of resources in Scrolls: energy, growth, and order. And once you get into the beta, you'll have to pick a pre-constructed deck from one of the resource types. I'll probably go a bit more in depth into these resource types on a later date, but for now, energy is themed around machines and tends to be the big, bashy, but slow units in combination with damage spells. Growth, which is very nature themed, focuses on synergies and aggressive swarming playstyles, and order, which is themed after military styled units, focuses on spells that allow you to control the board while grouping up smaller creatures. The art style in Scrolls is quite nice. The actual card art looks good, though currently the differences between a common, uncommon, and rare card are far too subtle. And unlike most TCGs, all your units are placed on a board and are then fully animated. The battles are then highly focused on tactics, and they look more like turn-based strategy games than actual TCG battles. And as I mentioned before, movement is a major focus, and positioning your units correctly is key to victory. Every unit currently has a base movement of 1, meaning it can move to one unoccupied hex around it, then has a damage and health statistic, but also a countdown statistic. Countdown is very important to keep in mind, as units won't attack until their countdown timer hits 0. So if you play a card with a countdown of 2, then it takes 2 turns until it can attack, which your enemy is no doubt going to try and exploit. Many units also have traits that grant more damage or health to allies, meaning it becomes important to line up the correct units while trying to dodge damage dealt by enemies. And if you clump up all your units together, you're basically begging for a damage spell in the face. When the countdown timer of a unit reaches 0, it will attack at the end of your turn, in a straight line, hitting the first enemy it encounters. Unless it has the Relentless passive, it won't continue attacking after hitting the first target. Eventually, after getting through the defenses of your opponents, you'll start damaging their idols, and these are your one and only victory condition. You have to destroy 3 out of 5 enemy idols that all have 10 health. Personally, I would like to see them add a bit more variety to victory conditions in the future, but as it stands, this system works very well and creates a challenging and tactical experience. Now, in order to actually cast units or scrolls in the first place, you of course have to get resources. At any point within your turn, you'll have the option of sacrificing one scroll. Either you can sacrifice it for any resource you please, this being energy, order, or growth, or you can sacrifice it to draw 2 new cards. One issue here is that currently there is no way to mulligan your hand. In other words, you are stuck with the first set of scrolls you get, which can be quite annoying in my experience, and allowing you to repick your starter hand while getting 1 scroll less would be a great addition. Because as it stands, if you get a really terrible starting hand, you could technically sacrifice 1 scroll for 2 new scrolls, but that means you can't actually get a resource that turn and you start falling behind straight from the get-go, which makes the game feel that much more random. But the combat itself is highly enjoyable and surprisingly challenging, as you have to keep in mind your movement reach, unit traits, the countdown of each individual unit, and the damage and health they then of course have. Every scroll used in one turn is indicated at the top, and I would like it if targets for spells were a bit more obvious, because as it stands, the only way to see what target has been set for a spell is to look at each individual unit. Or in the case of enhancements, look for the subtle glow on set units, which can make it a bit confusing. As for the current gameplay modes, Scrolls is a purely multiplayer game, and your choice in terms of AI fights are currently quite limited. You can pick from one of 3 difficulties, and these are easily some of the more challenging AI I've fought in TCGs, but sadly you can't as of right now pick what type of deck they are using. There are also trials. These are duels against AI with different specifics, such as lower health on idols or your enemy starting with a few structures in place. And then there is of course the option of dueling other players online in a 1 versus 1 battle. It would be interesting to see if they are going to add more modes for more players, such as 2 versus 2 or free for all, as that would be highly interesting with the current focus on movement and the battlefield, but as of right now, it is exclusively 1 versus 1. Finally, the game fully allows you to control your deck layout and has a deck builder in which you can combine whatever resources you want, with the only rule being that you have to have at least 50 scrolls in a deck. These scrolls are gained through the shop or by trading them with other players. The shop itself is focused on both in-game currency and microtransactions. With gold gained after every match, you can buy random cards for a relatively cheap amount that doesn't take long at all to gain. There are also 6 player unique cards that can be bought once, for both gold or shards, the microtransaction currency. And these change every week and are different and random for every player. And lastly, there are also some cosmetic items to, pimp up your avatar. The way the shop is set up is largely customer friendly. The random cards and card packs take very small amounts of gold, 100 for 1 card and 1000 for 10 random cards, which is something you'll get after winning just a few matches and are especially easy to get through the trials, which mostly grant you like 350 gold. The specific cards that can be bought with money are all random for every individual player every week, and can again only be bought once, so you can't stack up on them and won't get that one card to rule them all situation. In addition, the big pre-constructed packs that can be bought with money can't actually be traded with other players and can also only be bought once. So in the end, it's very customer friendly, with a focus on using the in-game currency to get random cards and trading these random cards with other players. Every now and then, possibly getting that one amazing rare card once it pops up in your store. As of right now, there is not an action house system in place yet, which is something that would greatly benefit Scrolls, but there is a dedicated trade chat, so trying to collect cards for your own specific deck is reasonably easy to do, and most of all, it doesn't at all feel like it will be pay to win as of right now. All in all, I really gotta hand it to Mojang. So far, Scrolls is looking like an excellent and surprisingly customer-friendly trading card game with interesting, unique, and most of all, challenging gameplay. The main downside to Scrolls right now is that it simply is not yet finished. More cards and more resource types would be highly interesting to see and would definitely spice up the game, and there are certainly some balance tweaks needed here and there. An auction house system and a way to mulligan your hand would both be great, and a more advanced system of picking your enemy AI opponents and their decks need to be added. But currently, Scrolls is a highly enjoyable, beautiful and challenging 1 versus 1 trading card game with a ton of potential and a fair microtransaction system. That being said, I've been Haas, and I definitely look forward to seeing Scrolls develop over time.